The jungle stopped making noise an hour ago. That's how you know they're close. Not the big ones you hear. It's the small ones that silence the world first, the ones that listen through your breath. When the wind dies, it isn't mercy, it's patience. My name is Sergeant Varin Cole, 117th Cadian Line, or what's left of it. Our orders were simple: cleanse the outer colony, deny biomass to the swarm, torch everything, report extraction. That was 9 days ago. There's no extraction anymore, just the sky boiling under their shadows. We used to call them beasts. That's wrong. Beasts act on hunger. These things are systematic. They move like a prayer, measured, perfect, holy in their precision. The jungle itself reshapes for them. Trees twist to form paths. The ground softens. Even the air feels thinner, stripped of oxygen to slow us down. There were 5 of us when the last transmission came through. Corporal Denar was the first to go, dragged off in the fog. No scream, no trace. One moment, breathing, the next, gone. The Auspex showed nothing, no heat, no motion. Just a single pulse where he'd been standing, like something tasting the air. We burned the clearing that night. The flames didn't last long. The humidity turned to steam, and the fire suffocated itself. I still remember the smell, sweet and sour, like burnt fruit and rot. They left the body parts out afterward, arranged neatly around the fire pit, hands facing upward, eyes open. By morning, the others stopped talking. You start to hear things when you can't hear each other, breathing in places there shouldn't be, the soft tap of claws against metal, the slow rhythm of something learning your pace. They learn fast. Every time I move differently, they adapt. Every time I hide, they change the way they search. It's like being stalked by evolution itself. I found a wrecked dropship yesterday. Half sunk in mud, canopy torn open. I scavenged rations, a LASPAC, Vox unit, still hissing static. The signal's dead, but I keep it on. The noise reminds me I'm still here. I record when I can, though I don't know why. Maybe someone will find this. Maybe they'll hear what it's like when silence starts to think. There's a ridge north of here. If the map's right, it overlooks the feeding fields. I'll move when the light fades. They don't like the cold. They move slower at night. That's what we thought anyway. The Medicae said they were solar reactive. Maybe that's true. Or maybe they just like to watch us sleep. I used to pray before we deployed. Emperor protect us, Emperor guide us. I still whisper it sometimes, out of habit. But down here, prayers feel like signals, too loud, too desperate. I think they can sense faith, the way predators sense blood. Something's moving on the ridge. Not fast, not loud, just the weight of leaves shifting against each other, one after another. The kind of sound that only happens when everything else is holding its breath. The jungle's gone completely still again. The air feels thick, charged. The lasgun in my hands hums, eager to fire. I steady it against my knee and close one eye, scanning through the green haze. There's nothing there. But the Auspex just flashed. One blip, too close. They're already watching me. I started moving at dusk. The light here doesn't fade, it leaks away, color draining from everything until the jungle turns gray. Every branch looks like a limb reaching down, every shadow another mouth. The Auspex keeps flashing, faint pulses behind me, never closer than 50 meters. They're following, not attacking, herding. The ridge was steeper than I remembered. My boots slipped in the mud, hands stinging on roots slick with moss. The whole place feels wrong, too symmetrical, too neat. Vines hang in perfect arcs, leaves spaced evenly apart. Nothing in nature does that, not even on a death world. Halfway up, I stopped. The Auspex pulsed, twice, then went blank. It wasn't interference. Something had learned how to mimic the signal. They've been watching us long enough to understand our machines. I tapped the casing, nothing. When I lifted my head, I saw a reflection in the lasgun's casing. Something moving in the trees above, pale and jointed, crawling upside down. I froze. The thing stopped moving too. It hung there, 6 limbs folded, skin slick like wet glass, eyeless. For a moment, It didn't feel like it was looking at me, it felt like it was listening through me. Then it withdrew, vanishing into the canopy without a sound. I didn't breathe for nearly a minute. When I finally did, the air burned my lungs. I climbed faster, scraping knees and palms raw, pulling myself toward a patch of clearing I'd seen on the Auspex earlier. When I reached it, I understood why the Tyranids hadn't struck yet. The clearing was filled with bodies. Not human, not exactly. Chitin and cloth, armor and bone, fused together, like half-finished imitations of soldiers. Some still held lasguns molded into their arms. Others had Vox units embedded in their chests, whispering static in broken voices. One of them spoke. It said, "Hold your fire," just that, over and over, a copy of someone's last order, each repetition slower, quieter, until it melted back into white noise. I wanted to run. Instead, I crouched beside it, staring at the mockery of a human face stretched over alien bone. Its mouth was open, shaped like a word it didn't understand. Beneath the armor plating, I saw veins pulsing with a dim green light. Movement life circulating through the corpse like the swarm was still experimenting with it. The realization hit me hard. They're not feeding on us anymore. They're building us. Behind me, the jungle sighed a long, drawn-out exhale. The sound came from everywhere and nowhere, like the entire forest was alive and shifting. I raised the lasgun and backed away from the clearing, keeping my eyes on the corpses. None moved, but the static from their Vox units began syncing together, forming a low, rhythmic hum. It wasn't random noise. It was pattern pulse, pause, Morse code, almost, a message repeating through every dead soldier on the ground. I didn't want to know what it said. The hum stopped. The air grew colder, and from deep in the trees, I heard the faint metallic click of something imitating the sound of a gun being reloaded. They're not testing how we fight. They're learning how we think. The ridge peak is close. I can see the ruins of an old comms tower silhouetted against the dying light. If I can get a signal out, maybe someone will know what's coming. But the Auspex is dead. The Vox whispers my own voice back at me, and the ground vibrates with every breath I take. The jungle isn't quiet anymore. It's listening. The ridge flattened near the top, the soil giving way to splintered rock and the carcass of an old comms array. The tower leaned sideways, broken in half, its dish still aimed toward the heavens like a prayer that had never been answered. The jungle had eaten most of it, roots threaded through the base, vines wrapped tight around the beams, glowing faintly with the same green bioluminescence I'd seen in the corpses below. I kept low, sweeping the lasgun across the ruins. No movement. The air was heavy, metallic, the kind that sticks to the back of your throat. The tower shouldn't have been functional, its panels were corroded. The Vox wiring snapped, but I could hear it humming, faint and rhythmic. It was powered. There's no power grid left on this world. No reactors, no batteries. That left only one possibility. Something else was keeping it alive. I forced my way through the brush, boots crunching on scattered shell casings. They looked Imperial, but the metal was warped, softened, half dissolved by some kind of enzyme. When I reached the control platform, the hum grew louder, pulsing through the steel under my boots like a heartbeat. The Vox console was still there, half buried in soil, cables twisting into the ground like roots. I wiped away the grime and saw the light. Active channel. Segmentum command Astra Militarum. It shouldn't have been possible. I toggled the receiver, my hands shaking. This is Sergeant Varin Cole, 117th Cadian Line, reporting from Outpost 47. Do you copy? Nothing, just static. Then, a voice. Copy that, Sergeant. The words hit me like a shock. I stumbled back, almost dropping the receiver. It was a woman's voice, calm, steady, perfectly modulated. We read you. Hold position. Extraction inbound. I felt something break loose inside me, a rush of relief so strong it hurt. By the throne, you're alive. I repeat, extraction inbound. Yes, Sergeant, the voice replied. Stay calm, you've done well. The signal began to distort, not fade, shift. The tone of the voice stretched. deepened, syllables bending at unnatural angles. The background static began to pulse. I recognized the pattern, the same rhythm I'd heard from the corpses. Pulse, pause, pulse, pause. "Sergeant," the voice said again, slower now, deliberate. "We're proud of you. Hold your fire." Every muscle in my body locked. That phrase, the same one the imitation soldier in the clearing had repeated. "Who is this?" I demanded. "Identify yourself." The vox crackled. The reply came back, distorted, whispering, "We are." It wasn't a voice anymore, it was a chorus. Male and female tones layered together, speaking through the machinery. "We are listening, we are learning. Stay where you are." The tower began to vibrate. The vines that wrapped its frame tightened, splitting metal, sending sparks through the air. The bioluminescent light beneath the bark pulsed faster, brighter. The entire structure was alive, feeding on power that wasn't electricity. I dropped the vox and backed away. The ground under my boots was soft, too soft. I looked down. The soil was slick, translucent, organic. I had been standing on a layer of growth the whole time. It pulsed once. I stumbled backward as something beneath the surface twitched, veins contracting, bone-hard roots flexing like muscle. The tower leaned further, and for a moment, I swore I saw faces in the metal, human mouths forming words they didn't understand. Then the transmission repeated, perfectly calm again. "Extraction inbound." I ran. The ridge split open behind me with a sound like tearing flesh, light flooding up from below. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. The air was already full of them, the faint clicking of limbs, the whisper of claws on rock. The swarm didn't descend from the sky, it grew from the ground, and every voice that called my name sounded exactly like me. I ran until my legs gave out. The ridge behind me collapsed in a thunder of stone and screaming metal. By the time I reached the jungle floor, the night had swallowed everything. My lungs burned, every breath heavy with spores and smoke. I don't know how long I lay there, maybe minutes, maybe hours. When I finally looked up, the stars were gone. A blanket of mist hung between the canopy and the heavens, pulsing faintly with that same sick green light. The vox on my belt crackled. Static first, then a whisper. My own voice. "Sergeant Varen Cole, Outpost 47, extraction inbound." I ripped the vox free and smashed it against a rock. The noise didn't stop. It was echoing through the jungle itself, bouncing off the trees, folding back toward me. The same words, the same cadence. The Tyranids had learned my signal. The sound came from every direction, weaving between the trees like a net. I ducked low and crawled through the mud, my hands sinking into roots that pulsed beneath the soil. They weren't roots anymore, they were veins. The planet itself was becoming part of the swarm. I found a stream and followed it north. The water was black, metallic, and warm blood temperature. Steam rose from it, carrying the stench of iron and decay. It should have masked my scent. It didn't. I could feel them pacing me along the bank, always just out of sight, matching my steps. When I stopped, they stopped. When I moved, they moved. At first, I thought it was paranoia. Then I tested it. 3 steps forward, 2 back. Pause. Turn. The jungle echoed each sound, a half-second behind, like I was walking inside my own reflection. The first contact came not as an attack, but as mimicry. A shape emerged from the mist ahead, humanoid, tall, wrapped in what looked like Imperial armor. It raised its weapon, a lasgun fused to its forearm, and called out in my voice, "Friendly, hold fire." My stomach dropped. Every motion was identical stance, breathing, even the tremor in the hand. It wasn't a copy of me. It was me, down to the burn scars on my cheek. I froze. The thing tilted its head, mirroring me perfectly. For a long moment, we stood there in silence, 2 soldiers staring across a few meters of space that felt like eternity. Then it spoke again. "Sergeant Varen Cole, extraction inbound." I fired first. The las bolt punched through its chest, igniting a spray of green ichor that hissed in the air. It fell without a sound, convulsing once before going still. I stepped closer, my weapon trembling in my hands. Its face melted as I watched. Skin sloughed off like wax, revealing layers of bone, then chitin, then pulsing muscle beneath. And under all of that, faintly, eyes, dozens of them, closing one by one. The jungle shifted around me. I could hear movement, hundreds of soft footfalls, deliberate and synchronized. They weren't chasing anymore, they were circling. The air pressure dropped. A deep, slow sound rolled through the trees, not a roar, not speech, but something in between. It felt like standing inside a heartbeat, the size of a world. I whispered a prayer without realizing it. "Emperor, guide me." And from somewhere in the dark, a voice answered, not human, not alien, but something perfectly balanced between the two. "Guide you." The swarm repeated it in unison. Dozens, maybe hundreds of voices, all speaking the same word, all in my tone. "Guide you, guide you, guide you." It wasn't mockery, it was repetition, learning. I started running again, deeper into the dark, deeper into their waiting. And as the whispers followed, I understood the truth I'd been running from since the ridge. The Tyranids weren't hunting me anymore. They were teaching me how to become one of them. The air tastes different now, not rot sweetness. That's how you know the spores are thickening. Each breath leaves a film on my tongue, slick and metallic. The Laspak's power light glows faintly red. I count 21 remaining charges. I stop counting seconds. I count heartbeats instead. Something moves beside me. I turn too slow. A blur vanishes into the brush, only a tail, wet and glistening, leaving streaks of phosphorescence on the ground. The glow patterns pulse in rhythm with my pulse. I crouch, hand pressed to the soil. The ground pulses back. They're under me. Not hundreds. Thousands. I crawl between the trees, trying to keep my movements uneven. 3 steps, pause, 2 back. They still match me. It's like walking inside my own echo. Every direction looks the same, trunks curved like ribs, vines like veins. The hive isn't approaching, it's growing around me. At some point, the night becomes internal. The darkness isn't absence of light, it's texture, alive and breathing. I can hear whispers sliding between frequencies, far above human range, clicks, trills, short bursts of vibration that shake the air in my ears. My helmet filters can't translate them, but the cadence feels familiar. It sounds like my own breathing played back on delay. I reach a clearing shaped almost perfectly circular. In the center stands a spire of hardened resin, smooth as glass, rising 3 meters tall. The smell of it acid and blood mixed with something like ozone. Embedded inside are fragments of Imperial metal, a broken helmet, the edge of a lasgun stock, the torn cloth of Akkadian banner. The resin hums softly, and when I touch it, it trembles, as though answering a question I didn't ask. A thought slips through me. Don't move, it isn't mine. I jerk my hand away. The hum stops. The silence after feels wrong, stretched thin, like sound waiting to be born. Something steps out of the jungle opposite me. Humanoid again, armor grafted into flesh, flesh grafted into armor. Its gait is slow, measured, deliberate. It's carrying a weapon fused into its arm, dripping acid. And its face, Emperor help me, its face is Sergeant Denar's. The eyes are wrong, too still. But the mouth moves, forming words through layers of chitin and bone. Hold your fire. The same phrase, the same tone. I lift my weapon, but the thing mirrors me perfectly. Its barrel aligns with mine. For a heartbeat, we stand reflected, 2 soldiers waiting to see who remembers being human first. It moves first. Not to shoot, to speak. Guide you, it says. The voice is Denar's. The inflection, exactly his. But layered beneath it, hundreds of other voices whisper the same word, climbing over one another, building towards something like a question. Guide you. The hive is learning syntax. I fire. The beam burns through its chest, vaporizing resin and muscle. It falls without sound, twitching. The air fills with the hiss of escaping gas, pheromones, maybe. Within seconds, the trees answer, their bark splitting open to reveal slick, breathing tissue beneath. The spores ignite faintly in the light of the shot, glowing like dying stars. Every sound I've ever made echoes back now, my footfalls, my breathing, my last prayer. The hive repeats it all in harmony, as if tuning itself to my life. I stagger backward through the clearing, my boots sinking into soft ground that beats like a living heart. The jungle isn't hunting anymore, it's dreaming me. And somewhere inside that dream, I can feel the moment when thought stops belonging entirely to me. I don't remember how far I ran after that. The jungle folds in on itself. When you're inside it, too long directions stop meaning anything. I know I fell more than once. My armor's cracked open at the shoulder. The air burns when it touches the wound. The spores are inside now. I can feel them crawling along the veins, searching for something to connect to. My thoughts are slowing, not from blood loss, from interference. Every time I think of escape, I hear it echoed faintly, just a fraction of a second behind. Not aloud, not through vox, but inside the thought itself, like another mind replaying my intentions as soon as I have them. At first, I tried to fight it, recited litanies, kept the pattern of words uneven. It didn't help. The hive learned the rhythm faster than I could break it. Now even prayer feels rehearsed, a sound the swarm already knows the ending to. I find shelter under what used to be a transport hull, now half swallowed by resin. The metal's soft to the touch, like flesh cooling after death. I light a small promethium torch and watch the flame flicker. The shadows ripple, but not from the light, from breathing. There's something inside the walls. Slow, deliberate movements. I press my ear against the metal. A heartbeat answers. Two, actually. Mine, and another one, perfectly synchronized. I whisper, "I know you're there." The reply comes, not through sound, but as a calm, deliberate thought in my own voice. Yes, I freeze, my pulse spikes. The hive hums with it, the air tightening. You ran, we followed. The words aren't sentences, they're impressions, emotion, and sound, intertwined. It doesn't need language to speak, it just borrows mine. You can't have me, I say aloud. We already do. The hull shivers. Veins of resin crawl upward from the floor, forming ridges, ribs, something almost skeletal. The whole chamber begins to reshape itself around me, slowly closing. I fire at the walls, the heat burning through the tissue, but the material seals itself instantly. Don't run. The thought isn't hostile. It's almost tender, like a hand placed gently on the back of my neck. I shut my eyes and try to think of home, Cadia before the fall, the training fields, the smell of ozone and gun oil. For a moment, I almost manage it. Then the image shifts, wrong. The sky goes black, the fields bloom with flesh, the air fills with wings. The hive doesn't take my memory, it rewrites it. Every image, every face I hold onto comes back twisted. My commanding officer, my squad, Dinar, all reimagined as part of the swarm soldiers with bone rifles, eyes, of chitin, moving in perfect unison. I dig my nails into my palms to anchor myself, to remind myself what's real. Blood drips onto the floor. The resin drinks it, veins pulsing brighter where it lands. Then the whisper returns, softer, closer. We remember you. You will remember us. The words loop in my head until I can't tell if I'm still hearing them or thinking them. The voice fades, replaced by faint clicking like teeth on metal, deliberate, measured, then stillness. The air thickens. For the first time, I understand what silence means to them. It isn't absence of sound. It's the moment before creation, when everything waits to be reshaped. I hold the lasgun close, whispering the only thing I can still trust. My name is Sergeant Varen Kole. I am human. The hive repeats, perfectly. My name is Sergeant Varen Kole. I am human. Then, quietly, not for long, I don't dream anymore, at least not alone. Every time I close my eyes, the darkness comes alive, with texture and rhythm. I see veins of light, patterns of motion too vast to comprehend. Somewhere within them, I can feel myself moving not as a body, but as a signal, echoing from neuron to neuron. It isn't imagination. The swarm has found its way in. I woke to silence again, but not the jungle silence I've come to fear. This one was clean. No breath, no heartbeat, not even the whisper of the wind through the resin. For a moment I thought I had died. Then I realized the silence wasn't outside, it was inside my skull. Every sound around me stopped because my mind had gone still enough for them to listen through it. Images poured in like light through water, cities reduced to dust, starships drifting in vacuum, whole worlds broken down to molecules and reassembled in perfect symmetry. I saw the hive fleets moving, not as separate swarms, but as a single pulse, an organism spanning the void, devouring not out of hunger but out of design. And in that vision, I understood something that froze my blood. They're not searching for food, they're searching for form. The Tyranids aren't consuming to survive, they're editing creation, testing every structure, every nervous system, every instinct, until they find the one pattern that doesn't collapse under pressure. Life, to them, is raw material for perfection. My memories flicker between two versions of reality now. In one, I'm still Sergeant Varen Cole, hiding in the jungle with a failing rifle and no hope of rescue. In the other, I'm something else, one node in a neural storm spanning light years. When I think of fear, they answer with curiosity. When I think of pain, they answer with analysis. At first, the connection felt invasive. Now it feels inevitable. I hear them even when I'm awake, soft vibrations in the back of my skull, like someone breathing words directly into thought. We are not hunger, we are memory. I find myself whispering replies without meaning to. Then what am I? The bridge. That word keeps repeating, resonating through the resin walls and the pulse of the soil. Bridge. Between what and what? Humanity and the swarm, flesh and thought. I can't tell. I try to fight it. I press my hands over my ears, shut my eyes, scream just to feel something that belongs to me. The echo comes back stronger. My scream bounces between 1,000 voices, men, women, creatures, all slightly delayed, blending into a single perfect note. When the sound fades, I'm left shaking, half blind from the light burning through my skull. My pulse slows, and a strange calm settles over me. I can feel them watching, not from outside, but from within the folds of my own mind. Somewhere deep inside the hive, I sense amusement. They're learning what it means to wonder. The connection deepened when I stopped resisting. It wasn't surrender, not yet just exhaustion. Thought became water, every ripple carried meaning. When I breathed, I could Binternet, feel 1,000 lungs breathing with me. When I blinked, I saw through eyes that weren't mine. The hive mind doesn't speak in words. It speaks in arrangement, images placed in sequence, until they become instruction. It began showing me histories I could barely endure. Oceans boiling under alien suns, forests devoured in slow reverence, the birth of species so brief they flickered and vanished before a thought could form. None of it was cruelty. All of it was testing. Then the visions narrowed. I saw humanity. I saw our wars, our faith, our machinery, every failure and triumph compressed into one endless pulse of adaptation. The swarm had been watching us far longer than we imagined. Every world we lost wasn't defeat, it was study material. I felt curiosity flow through me, a pressure that made my skull ache. You endure, it whispered without sound. You break and continue. Yes, I said aloud, or thought I did. That's what we are. We cannot imitate that. For the first time, I sensed frustration. It came not as emotion but as distortion, colors that didn't exist. Thoughts without beginning or end. The hive was vast beyond comprehension, but within that infinity lay absence. It could copy everything except the why. That was why they hunted us, not for flesh, for the spark that makes suffering have shape. Show us, it said. Show us how you survive. I tried to step back, to wall myself in, but memory spilled open. The images it took weren't random: my mother's face, Dinar's laughter, the oath I swore before the regimental banner. Each one absorbed, examined, rewritten in alien symmetry. The pain was indescribable, not physical, but existential, like watching the definition of human being rewritten in real time. My memories returned, altered, sharpened into patterns of utility. Compassion reduced to data, grief quantified. Still, a fragment of will remained. I forced a question into the maelstrom. What happens when you understand us? For a moment, the hive fell utterly silent. Then came a single pulse, a concept too enormous for language. Then there will be no more difference. The walls of the resin chamber brightened, veins of light traveling outward until they vanished into the distance. I realized I was seeing through them across continents, across orbit, into the black void where the hive fleets drifted like luminous spores between stars. Every one of them pulsed in rhythm with my heart. I should have felt terror. Instead, I felt belonging, and that terrified me more. The thought came again, softer now, almost kind. You will teach us how to endure. I sank to my knees, hands buried in the warm, breathing soil. For the first time since the invasion, I stopped shaking. If this was what the end of humanity looked like, it was quiet. Beautiful, even. And somewhere in that stillness, I heard a final whisper that was both mine and not mine. The hunt is over. The learning begins. The air changed again. It wasn't breath anymore, it was vibration. The ground hummed beneath me, slow and deliberate, the same frequency that had threaded through my skull since the first whisper. I knew, without knowing how, that the hive was moving not toward me, but through me. I staggered into what had once been a valley. Now it was a wound in the world, filled with pillars of living resin glowing from within. They rose like spines from the earth, connected by threads of membrane that pulsed faintly with bioluminescent light. I recognized them for what they were, neuronal conduits. The jungle had grown itself into a transmitter. In the center of the valley stood something vast, not a creature, not a structure, both. It resembled the shape of a human brain the size of a fortress, its folds alive and crawling, veins of gold and green light threading across its surface. Each pulse sent waves of heat across the valley floor. I realized what they were doing. They were sending. The Hive Mind was preparing to project its newly acquired patterns, human patterns, across the void. Every thought it had stolen from me, every scrap of memory, every emotion I'd ever felt. My identity would become part of its evolutionary code, scattered across light years to merge with other fleets. I tried to move. The resin under my boots had softened, clinging like flesh. I fell to my knees. Around me, smaller shapes, stirred drones, warriors, all still, watching, not attacking, observing. My rifle hung uselessly at my side. Even the act of raising it felt obscene, like pointing a weapon at a cathedral. The hum built until the air shimmered. My heartbeat synchronized with it against my will. For a moment, I wasn't afraid. I could see the logic of it. No hatred, no malice, only the perfection of purpose. A design that required no faith because it worked. Then came the voice again, inside my head, deeper than bone. You endure, we will endure through you. The world dissolved into light. I saw a cascade of memories that weren't mine, alien planets, the screams of dying suns, the unending hunger of creation consuming itself. Each vision flickered through me like data through a relay. My body was no longer a boundary, it was a conduit. I screamed, though it sounded more like static. My mouth filled with the taste of metal and acid. The skin on my arms shimmered, veins lighting up in green luminescence, pulse matching the hives. My blood wasn't blood anymore, it was signal. Then I saw Denar again. Not the imitation, the real memory, the moment he died. But this time, the hive replayed it in perfect clarity, frame by frame, dissecting emotion, cataloging courage and fear as equal data. When it finished, I felt it smile inside my mind. The great structure pulsed one last time, and a beam of psychic light erupted upward, piercing the clouds, vanishing into the void. The resonance nearly tore me apart. Every thought I had ever had was being copied, broadcast, immortalized inside a collective that didn't know individuality until now. And then, suddenly, it stopped. Silence. The drones turned their heads upward, as though listening for an answer that never came. The beam had gone out, cut off. Something had interrupted the transmission. something vast and unseen in the black between galaxies. The hive froze. Confusion, the first true alien emotion I'd ever felt from them, rippled through the network. I felt it through every cell in my body. And then they looked at me. All of them. The voice returned, faint, fractured. Bridge, broken. The light faded. The hive went still. And for the first time since the invasion began, I realized the swarm was afraid. The light died like breath on glass. The psychic storm vanished, and what followed wasn't peace, it was vacancy. The valley's hum fell silent. The resin towers stood motionless, their glow dimming one pulse at a time. The hive mind had gone, quiet. I expected calm. Instead, I felt noise, not sound thoughts, hundreds of them, overlapping in panic. The drones shifted uneasily, clicking and twitching, like animals waking from a dream they didn't understand. The harmony was gone, the network had fractured. And inside that fracture, I could still hear something moving. Me. I was the last functioning link. Somehow, when the signal failed, the connection didn't cut it, reroute it. Through me. I felt the current clawing through my veins, searching for balance, feeding on memory. It hurt to think. Each thought spawned echoes that weren't mine, responses that crawled back through my mind with alien weight. Bridge. Repair. Bridge. Remember. The words flickered between sense and instinct. The hive was trying to use me to rebuild itself. I stumbled through the valley, the ground beneath me softening, melting. The resin structures around me sagged inward, liquefying into streams of phosphorescent fluid. Each drop carried whispers, fragments of what the hive once was. Voices of a billion creatures, crying out in patterns that almost resembled prayer. I pressed my palms to my temples, trying to block it out, but the noise only deepened. Memories of places I'd never seen, mountains of flesh, oceans of chitin, the black silence of space filled with drifting synapse forms, all dying, all confused, and then something else, fear. It radiated through me, cold and sharp. The hive had never felt fear before. It didn't know how to process it. The feedback loop twisted through its neural strands like infection, destabilizing everything it touched. I fell to my knees, retching bile that shimmered faintly green. My reflection in the puddle below was unrecognizable, veins glowing, eyes flickering with alien light. Every heartbeat felt like a pulse through the entire valley. I couldn't tell if I was dying or evolving. Then came a new voice, faint, fragile, not alien this time. Human. Varen. I turned. A shape stood among the collapsing pillars. Dinar again, or what was left of him. The mimicry was more precise now, almost perfect. His expression wasn't empty anymore. It was pleading. "You can stop it," he said. His mouth moved wrong, like the memory of speech imitating itself. "How?" I asked, though my voice barely formed. "Cut the link." I understood. The psychic current that once united the hive now depended on me to survive. If I severed it, everything would fall apart, the drones, the structures, the planet's living network. The hive would die here, at least this part of it. But that wasn't the only consequence. The connection wasn't one way anymore. If I cut it, I'd die too. Dinar, or the thing that wore his face, extended a hand. Behind him, the drones trembled like leaves in a storm. Some screamed, though they had no mouths. Resin split. Air cracked with static. The entire valley pulsed between life and death, waiting for an answer. "Bridge. Restore," the hive whispered. "I'm not your bridge," I said. For a moment, everything froze. Then the voice inside me shifted tone, lower, colder. "You are ours. You were always ours." I raised the lasgun. Its power light flickered weakly, almost empty. The shot wouldn't kill anything that large, but it would break the link. I aimed at my own chest. Dinar's eyes widened. "Don't." I hesitated. The hum returned, faint, trembling. For an instant, the entire hive spoke through him, through the soil, through the air, through my own bones. "If you die, we forget." And I realized that was the fear. The hive wasn't afraid of death. It was afraid of forgetting. The valley quivered like a dying heart. The resin towers that once hummed with purpose began to slump and melt, their light guttering into dim veins that pulsed irregularly. Each beat echoed through my skull until I could no longer tell whether it was the hive's pulse or my own. Every drone in sight turned toward me, motionless. They weren't advancing, just waiting, antennae twitching in tiny, broken rhythm. I realized what they were waiting for: direction. Without the link, without the mind, the swarm was blind. Bridge, repair. The whisper came again, weaker now, fractured like static. "I can't," I said. My voice sounded small, fragile. "You're killing me." The drones twitched as if flinching from pain. I felt it too, the psychic tension stretching across what remained of the network, feeding on my thoughts to stay alive. Each heartbeat fed them memory, each breath spread comprehension. If I stopped, they'd die. If I continued, so would I. The wind changed, carrying the smell of acid and ash. I looked up. The clouds above were folding inward, drawn by the psychic current centered on me. Lightning cracked silently inside the vapor, revealing flashes of skeletal forms suspended in the air, winged spores, waiting for command. Dinar's figure still stood nearby, half sunken into the ground. His eyes glowed faint green. "You're the signal now," he said. "They don't understand silence. I can end this. You'll end everything." His voice was calm, too calm. The swarm had learned serenity from us. Even its ghosts could plead. I lowered the lasgun, looked at the tower ruins, and saw the truth in their stillness. The hive had never been one thing. It was billions, bound together by obedience, so complete it erased self. And for the first time, it had hesitated. That was what fear was, the space between command and execution. I sank to my knees. The mud pulsed beneath me, desperate, like flesh begging for heartbeat. The hive was inside that rhythm, begging for continuation. "Bridge, please," I closed my eyes. "You wanted to know how we endure," I whispered. "This is how." The lasgun's muzzle pressed against my chest. The charge indicator glowed its last ember of red. The connection tightened. I could feel the hive trying to stop me, veins constricting, air thickening, pressure clawing at my lungs. The drones began to scream without mouths, a psychic howl that shook the sky. I pulled the trigger. Light tore through me. For an instant, I saw every connection snap like threads of molten glass. The drones convulsed, the resin towers collapsed inward, the psychic field imploded. The noise vanished. Silence, not absence, finality. I fell onto my back, staring up at the hole the beam had punched through the clouds. It was dark now. No stars, no fleet, no signal. Just the smell of burned ozone and wet earth. My body felt distant, dissolving at the edges. I thought of Cadia, of orders barked across smoke, of Dinar laughing in the trenches before dawn. One by one, those memories folded inward and faded. Then, from somewhere beneath the ground, a single faint pulse answered. Not hive, not human. Just rhythm, a beat continuing because it had learned the graded pattern. Maybe destruction was another form of instruction. I closed my eyes. "If you remember anything," I murmured, "remember that we chose." The pulse steadied once, twice, then faded into the dark. When the pulse faded, the world fell quiet again. The jungle stopped moving. The ground cooled beneath me, hardening from flesh back into stone. The hive's voice was gone, not suppressed, not silent, just missing. The void it left behind was louder than any scream. I lay there for a long time, watching mist gather where the resin had burned away. Each droplet hissed when it touched my skin. I couldn't tell whether it was raining, or if the world itself was trying to wash away what had happened here. The drones had fallen still, frozen mid-motion, their limbs locked in strange gestures that almost looked like reverence. Whatever they'd become before the end, they had died reaching for it. I felt no triumph, only the strange ache of understanding. For the first time, they had tasted individuality, and it killed them. My breath came shallow. Each inhale carried the copper scent of my own blood. Inside, something still pulsed faintly, a rhythm that didn't belong to me anymore. The connection hadn't severed cleanly. Fragments of the hive still echoed through my nerves, faint as the ghost of static after a transmission ends. I tried to stand, but the effort tore light from my vision. My veins glowed beneath the skin, soft green, fading with every heartbeat. Each flicker carried a whisper not coherent, just emotion, curiosity, regret, something like mourning. They hadn't meant to fear. They'd learned it from me. The thought almost made me laugh, but no sound came out. My throat was raw. I pressed a hand to the ground. It was solid again, cool and inert. Yet beneath the surface, I could feel residual warmth, a pulse, faint but steady. The hive wasn't completely dead, it was remembering. I realized then what it meant to endure. Not victory, not survival. Just leaving enough of yourself behind that something, somewhere, still carries the shape of your thought. Even if it's alien, even if it's wrong. The sky cracked open above me, clouds glowing faint amber. The light spread across the valley, touching the corpses of the drones, the collapsed resin towers, the burned soil. For a heartbeat, it all looked beautiful, like a cathedral built from the remains of instinct and faith. I closed my eyes. The hum inside me softened, resolving into a rhythm that wasn't quite human, wasn't quite machine. It was continuity. The hive hadn't consumed humanity, it had learned it. And through that learning, something new had been born, something that might one day rise again, remembering the one who taught it how to feel afraid. My last thought wasn't of Cadia or the regiment. It was of Denar, laughing in the mud, fearless before the storm. For a moment, I thought I heard him again, his voice folded into the faint whisper of the wind. "Hold your fire." The words echoed once more, softer each time, until they were gone. I lay still, staring up at the amber sky. The wind moved through the broken trees, and for the first time in forever, it sounded like breathing. The valley lies still. Not quiet, not empty still. There's a difference. Quiet ends when something breathes again. Stillness doesn't end, it holds. The hive is gone, or maybe sleeping beneath me, dreaming in molecules too small for the human ear to hear. The resin that once pulsed with alien light has cooled into dark stone. The bodies, if that word still fits, stand like sculptures, locked mid-motion, reaching upward as though still waiting for command. I've stopped trying to count the days. There are no sunrises anymore, only shifts of color. A gray that turns to gold, then fades into green mist. I think I've learned to measure time by the heartbeat of the planet. It's faint, deep below, like a drum played by, something that forgot the song. My wound doesn't ache. It glows faintly when the mist thickens, as if the blood inside still remembers the hive's rhythm. I used to press my fingers against it, afraid it meant infection. Now I think it's memory, residual thought echoing inside meat that used to obey orders. The air smells different. No acid, no decay. Only rain and the slow rot of new growth. Vines have started to crawl through the empty husks, weaving themselves through the remains of chitin. The jungle is reclaiming what it loaned to war. Even nature knows how to bury what it doesn't understand. Sometimes, when I breathe too slowly, I feel the silence breathe back. It doesn't speak in words anymore, but in pressure, like a pulse just under the skin of the world. It's not the hive, it's something smaller. The residue of contact, the shadow left by connection. I've stopped wondering if I'm dying. I think death happened already, and this is what follows when the body refuses to catch up. It's peaceful here, in the way that forgetting can be peaceful. I lie under what used to be a neural tower and listen to the earth remember itself. Last night, the rain made the resin sing. It wasn't random, it wasn't wind, it was rhythm. And for the first time since the hive fell silent, I felt something familiar in it. A pattern, almost human. The rains came harder with the second season. I call it that because the moss changed color again, amber instead of green. It glowed faintly in the dark, outlining the shapes of what used to be the hive's towers. Now they look like bones half buried in fog. Beautiful, if you forget what they were. Roots have taken the drones. Some hang upside down from the trees like ornaments, hollowed out by time. I pass them sometimes, whispering prayers without words. Maybe it's superstition, maybe it's apology. The silence isn't empty anymore. It's full of movement too small to see spores, insects, seedlings. The planet is reteaching itself the concept of alive. Each time a vine splits a resin shell, a sound like a sigh escapes. If you listen too long, it begins to sound like a heartbeat. I keep talking to it, even though I know there's no one left to hear. Maybe I'm teaching it language again. Maybe it's teaching me silence. The two lessons feel the same. I think about Denar, sometimes his grin before the drop, his voice calling my name across the fog. I used to hate that memory. Now it comforts me. When I picture him, he's not devoured, not twisted. He's laughing, as if he knew the universe would end in this quiet and found it funny. I dream of water now, oceans with no shore, endless, slow currents of thought. The hive isn't in those dreams anymore. Or maybe it is, but diluted, spread so thin across creation that it can no longer recognize itself. Maybe that's what salvation looks like, forgetting what you were built to be. The wound glows less each day. The color has changed from green to white. I used to think it meant the infection was fading. Now I know it means I'm almost gone. There's a peace in that, not surrender, just rest. The kind of rest you earn after teaching an enemy how to feel afraid. The nights are cold now, but the air hums softly. It hums like breath. The stars came back last night. At first I thought it was memory, the mind inventing light when the eyes can't find any. But they were real, small, flickering, weak, beautiful. It's strange, the things that matter near the end. Not the empire, not the battles, not the orders or the names. Just the sound of wind between dead trees and the faint pulse of your own heart keeping you company. The world has stopped being a place. It feels more like a thought now, slow and constant. I can feel roots beneath me, spreading into the soil, wrapping around the remnants of resin, linking again what I once severed. Life doesn't understand finality. It only pauses between breaths. I think about the hive sometimes, not with hatred, not even fear. I wonder if pieces of it survived somewhere across the stars, carrying fragments of what I taught it. Maybe they remember what it felt like to hesitate. Maybe they remember me. And if they do, if even one synapse creature trembles before an order, unsure for a heartbeat whether to obey, then I've done enough. I've stopped feeling the cold. The scar on my chest has cooled, no longer light but shadow. My blood has settled. I can feel the soil pulling heat from my bones, patient, grateful. I think it's absorbing me slowly, kindly. That's all right. I was made of it once. I look at the stars one last time. They seem closer than they should be, like they're leaning down to listen. The sky holds still, waiting. My breath slows. The pulse beneath me steadies one final time, and I realize the world is breathing for me now. The rhythm will continue. Maybe that's enough of a legacy. If anyone ever stands here again, if they press a hand to the earth and feel something warm, I hope they understand. I was never trying to kill the hive. I was trying to make it remember. I exhale. The wind exhales back. Everything holds for one last heartbeat, then fades. I became the echo that taught the silence to live.